E la cintura?
Non ce l'ho.
È un grosso rischio. Ricordati sempre di allacciare la cintura di sicurezza e falla allacciare anche a chi sta dietro. Guidare non è uno scherzo. Va bene?
Journalists and visitors, the meeting through the eyes of those living it. The philosopher Fabrice Aggiaggi, playing and singing with his friends of the meeting. Clara, president of a multinational company and proud mother of 9 children. The life of Saint Charles Borromeo, an existence changed by the discovery of a true destiny. The bookstore of the meeting, buying books that witness experience and talk about certainty.
Last year we saw them explaining exhibits, accompanying guests and serving in restaurants. This year we see them speaking with professors and experts on politics and economics. They are university students. William is next to the president of Fiat, John Elkann. Eleonora and Enrico are asking questions to Napolitano. And then Sara holds a meeting about a fashions period.
Last Tuesday, I moderated a meeting with 3 exhibit supervisors. I had the chance to ask them questions I was interested in and which I considered important in helping the audience to understand the message of the exhibit.
Weren't you scared to speak among such distinguished experts?
At the beginning, I was a little bit worried, but if there's something that I've learned this year while working on this exhibit, even if I'm not an expert on the fascism period or a qualified historian, it is by being myself, with all my questions, that I can stand in front of professors who have been doing this work all their life.
Is there anything are you bringing home from this experience?
It's not over yet, so I'm still expecting everything to happen. During these days, I've been learning that you can start again. It is like you could even be pleased with your work, but actually it is not enough. Instead, I'm surprised by the fact that this exhibit, which is ours because we've been working on it, is alive as it keeps being done every day through the questions of the people we meet and by our own questions.
A man, a philosopher, a French intellectual. He begins to play an accordion with his friends.
C'est vraiment un lieu d'amitié. Pour moi, ça a été un lieu d'amitié.
At the meeting, there's a trust in friendship that you cannot find anywhere else. Normally, at big events, people meet, but then they lose contact with each other and don't see each other anymore. Here, I have met some people who are now some of my best friends.
Ne se voit plus. Mais il y a une sorte de fidélité après le meeting.
At the talk with Father Stefano Alberto, Hajjaj speaks about an immense and unavoidable
Quand on parle
certainty.
d'une certitude immense,
Speaking about immense certainty is to say that the certainty is greater than me. It doesn't close me in on myself. It's a certainty that opens me.
c'est une certitude qui m'ouvre.
It
Ce n'est
doesn't
pas une
petrify me.
certitude qui me
It's an existential certainty
pétrifie,
that puts me in
qui me
action and opens me
minéralise.
to
C'est une
life.
certitude, au contraire, qui est une certitude existentielle qui me dynamise et qui m'ouvre sur
To prepare the best coffee in the world and sell it everywhere. With this idea, Francesco Ili founded his company 80 years ago. The nephew tells his story to the meeting. Italy's specialty is the creativity that comes from the deep cultural roots of the land, said Andrea Ili, president of the most important Italian coffee company. Along with Ili spoke other entrepreneurs, like Massimo Scaccabarozzi, president of Farmindustria, and Livio Tronconi, head of the most important private health service provider. They explain how a company starts and grows. It was a talk titled Made in Italy, or how some people call it, Made by Italians. We are not just trailblazers or geniuses, said Enrico Biscaglia, director of the Company of Works. We are done with the inferiority complex. And Roberto Snaidero, president of Federlegno, seems to not care about such complexes. There is just one condition. The Italian companies are like gazelles. They always have to run, since they are always pursued by lions that represent China and other competitors from emerging countries. The only condition is to keep on running.
The House, the Land, the Friends, the Church in the Third Millennium. This is the title of the new book by Monsignor Camisasca that was presented this afternoon at the meeting. Aldo Cazzullo, journalist from the Corriere della Sera, discussed the book with Monsignor Camisasca. The Archbishop of Moscow, Monsignor Paolo Pezzi, also attended the talk. From the future of the Church to the history of Italy, Aldo Cazzullo talked about the Italian unification and the resistance in his presentation of his new book, Viva l'Italia. The journalist described how the history of his country is something of which all Italians should be proud. Special tasting of the products of Coppa Valli at the CDO food farming stand. Antonio Beatta's company, one of the top companies in the dairy sector, is completely Italian in its production and management. With its 15 cooperatives and 1,000 farming products, Coppa represents a virtuous example of unity between private business and useful production for the public.
The exhibit on San Carlo Borromeo is curated by the Milan Archdiocese and by the Old Ambrosian Library. The idea of the exhibit, San Carlo Borromeo, the house built on the rock, was inspired by the occasion of the 4th centenary of his canonization. The exhibit develops didactically. It is based on a firm scientific foundation that outlines the different aspects of the Archbishop of... The exhibit develops didactically. It is based on a firm scientific foundation that outlines the different aspects of the Archbishop of Milan's ministry. Texts and images lead visitors through the exhibit, following two important iconographic series: San Carlo's notebooks, exhibited in the Duomo of Milan, and a series of frescoes reproduced on the walls, called the Biasca Cycle. At the center of the exhibit, there's room for a small treasure of art and faith. There are 3 relics belonging to the saint: the pastoral, the chalice, and the episcopal ring. The last man to wear it was Monsignor Dionigi Tettamanzi. He says about the meeting:
I was interested in every stand because both the ones I have had the chance to stop at and the ones I've seen from a certain distance recalled me values, problems, questions, and promises. They were like invitations to face life, not as something temporal or inevitably uncertain, that is, just filled with restlessness, solitude, and desperation, but as something that is full of hope.
The bookstore in the D5 pavilion is one of the most visited places of the Rimini meeting. In your car there are several books. What are you buying? A book about St. Bridget of Sweden that I'm going to read immediately, and some books of the exhibits.
I'm flipping through the pages of this book about Porto Franco.
I'm buying this book by Father Aldo Trento called Christ and the Water Basin.
The Mystic and the Flash by Hajjaj that is going to be presented today.
2 books of Danny Lau, and I found 2 books that are not in print anymore: The Sign of the Temple and The Church of the Apostles.
Interests are very different, but the bestsellers are the ones on the exhibits of the meeting.
I'm searching for something by Newman because I was so moved by the exhibit.
This year there is something new at the bookstore. These are Cho's photographs with a book that cost 1,500 euros. These photos are about the movement in its first years from 63 to 65. 6 photos represent Varigori and 4 the countryside around Milan. Has someone already bought it? Yes, more than once.
I'm searching for some books I want someone to give me as a gift.
A book for my sister.
And one for you?
No, because I'll read it anyway.
The bookstore has a strong attraction.
Surrounded by the boxes of a storehouse, Riro and his friends practice for the concert taking place tonight at the meeting. A man comes up to them. His name is Lamberto. Doctors considered him practically dead after 11 days in a coma. Instead, in his deep sleep, he listened to Riro's music. This is his story.
I had a brain hemorrhage. I was like a vegetable. But it all ended well since a lot of people, literally half of the world, began to pray for me. They always made me listen to their CD, to 3 types of music. One was the music of my youth that made me aware that I was not dead. If I could remember it, it meant that I was not dead. At every verse, it was as if the sun appeared. A new day, a new dawn. Do you understand? With the Hallelujah, the sun had risen. What was the point in being awake all night long? In some mysterious way, I took part in the life of the church.
What a great faith! The power of music, the miracle of a new life born again.
The music in Braveheart is only one of the achievements of the Chieftains, the Irish group that thrilled the audience at the meeting last night. 40 years of music to preserve the Celtic tradition and spread it around the world. That is the mission of Paddy Malone, the founder of the group, recognized as the most important group in Ireland. The atmosphere heated up whenever the Irish dancers made an appearance during the concert. But there were also plenty of songs to listen to in silence with amazement. In the audience, people clapped and improvised dances. It was impossible not to be overwhelmed.
Clara, you cover an important position. You are the CEO of General Electric France. I would like to ask you, what do you think about this economical crisis? The global recession are threatening the common good and put at risk the health of our society. In light of what the Pope has recently said about the need of ethics to jump again in the economy, what's your feeling about the future of our global economy?
This is a very important moment because there is a shift. We were in a period of time where we believed we could grow to the top of the trees could go to the sky, and the trees can't go to the sky. So it remains us, and we have to come back to the reality of the real life. It's that economy is to the service of the human being and not the contrary. And what the Pope is saying is not only for us as Catholic, but for everyone, we have to put not only ethics, but human being in the center of economy. And this is the lesson of each of the crises. The crisis of 2008 was people thinking that they were more clever than anyone. This is the crisis not of a failing of people who didn't know. They were the most well-paid people, the most aware, the most technical people, and they failed. And why did they fail? It was because they were in a bubble which didn't fit anymore with the reality of the life.
A personal question now. How did your father affect your personal life in every aspect that you...
It's difficult to answer this question. I think my father, he's with me every day. You know, he died 17 years ago, but it's like I speak to him. And I'm sure he's here every day when the things I'm doing. And when I remember him, I remember a man who was looking at you with very kind eyes, always pushing you to give the best of what you were, but always also taking care of you with humility. So it's this guidance I have. I wouldn't say that he gave me any special advice. It was only his behavior.
How do you manage everything together? How can you be one, only one, in front of every achievement and goals in your daily life, from being a top manager, from being a mother, a wife, and a sister, and to run your father foundation? How is that possible to be only one person without checking the million box of our daily tasks?
You gave the answer, being one. I'm not different when I'm a CEO than when I am a mother, when I am a wife, or when I share my friends, or when I am at home or at the office. Of course, I don't do the same task, but I am the same. I try to always not to change who I am. I have my strengths, I have my weaknesses, and I admit it. And I would say that there are two things that helped me a lot. First, to be humble, because when you're humble, you ask for help. You know that you can't do everything, so I'm asking help to my children, to my husband, to the people in my team. And guess what? They're happy to help me. And the other thing is the sense of humor. Because you always make mistakes, you know, and you learn from the mistakes. You are not learning of the success, you learn about the mistakes. And if you can laugh about it, learn about it, life is easier.
E la cintura?
Non ce l'ho.
È un grosso rischio. Ricordati sempre di allacciare la cintura di sicurezza e falla allacciare anche a chi sta dietro. Guidare non è uno scherzo. Va bene?